Meanwhile, Leslie was not the type of person who was easily satisfied with what she had. Although she had just received a huge inheritance from Barbara's trust fund, which might have changed the lives of many others, for Leslie, it was just the beginning of endless ambitions. The trust fund had brought her unprecedented wealth and power, but Leslie could not stop. She knew that only money and power could help her control everything, and she was determined to achieve that goal. Having inherited a large fortune, Leslie quickly made strategic moves to consolidate her power. One of the most important decisions she made was to buy the house across the street from Anita and Vernon. This was not only a strategic decision but also an assertion of power. Living near the Dupree family was no coincidence. Leslie knew that, when she could monitor their every move, it would be easier for her to carry out her plan to manipulate and divide them. While the house across the street was being built, Leslie did not rush to move in, but instead chose to temporarily live in a luxury hotel nearby. And coincidentally, she lived in the same hotel as Ted, the person she had been planning to manipulate. Ted, with his complicated relationship with Nicole, was now caught up in a vortex of intrigue that Leslie was creating. She did not simply live near Ted for the convenience of her schemes, but also used every opportunity to approach and control him. Part of Leslie's plan also included spending money to join the Fairmont Crest Country Club, a place that gave her powerful connections, increasing her influence in the community. It was no coincidence that Leslie used the trust fund to bribe and expand her power here. She not only wanted to be rich, but also wanted to assert that she was an influential person, able to control every situation in her own way. But with all this advancement, Leslie could not maintain peace in her heart. The sense of power and control she had pushed her into a state of never feeling satisfied. Although she had achieved a lot, in Leslie's eyes, everything was still not enough. She constantly sought new opportunities, and was even willing to break the limits set by society to achieve her goals. Meanwhile, Ted, whom Leslie had focused all his attention on, began to feel tired of her harassment. He could not ignore the strangeness in Leslie's actions. Her attempt to infiltrate every corner of his life, from living near him in a hotel to using money to influence important decisions, made Ted unable to help but feel pressured. Although he may feel caught up in this game, Ted knows deep down that he needs to find a way to stop Leslie's harassment before things get out of hand. Ted begins to suspect that if left unchecked, Leslie will not only continue to harass him, but may also create irreparable conflicts between him and Nicole. He knows that she may continue to use her connections to harm him and his family. Can Ted continue to tolerate this harassment, or will he find a way to stop Leslie's power plays? The big question is, will Ted have the courage to report Leslie's harassment to the police? Can he stop before it's too late? And can he stop Leslie's manipulation without damaging the relationships around him? Calling the police may be a powerful option to stop Leslie's illegal activities, but could it lead to unexpected consequences for Ted's family and community? The story between Ted and Leslie is now approaching a point of no return. A confrontation awaits, and only one of them will win this power play. If Leslie is framed and faces jail time, the consequences will not stop at herself. Leslie has always had a wide network of relationships and people she has manipulated and exploited to achieve her goals. She knows how to create dependencies and build relationships that seem harmless, but in reality, put others in situations from which they cannot escape. And if one day she is framed and forced to face the law, all the relationships Leslie has built will be exposed. Ted himself may become the one to confront Leslie directly when her schemes are finally exposed. If he decides to report Leslie's harassment to the police, this could lead to her arrest and face serious legal consequences. But is Ted willing to do so, knowing that Leslie's actions affect not only him but also his family and those around him? Ted's decision to call the police would be a turning point. However, Ted is not someone who acts without thinking carefully. He knows that if he does so, he will not only end Leslie's harassment, but also put the Dupree family in a spiral of conflict and danger. On the other hand, If Ted feels that there is not enough evidence to bring Leslie to light, he may decide to prepare false evidence to incriminate her. This is a dangerous move, but for someone like Ted, in a tense situation, sometimes shady decisions become the last choice. Using false evidence is not only a risky move, but also raises questions about ethics and justice. Will Ted have the courage to take such an action, and can he bear the consequences of deceiving the law, or will he himself become a part of Leslie's dirty game? As the truth begins to unfold, Eva will face an uneasy internal struggle. Although she has witnessed her mother manipulating everyone in the family, is she strong enough to break the cycle of manipulation that Leslie has created? Eva has been raised in an environment full of secrets and lies, but can she escape her mother's influence? Is she brave enough to expose all the plots that Leslie has set up, or will she fall into the trap that she herself witnessed? Eva knows that if she continues to stay silent, she will become part of the system of manipulation that Leslie has built. But if she speaks up, will she be able to protect herself from her mother's revenge? Eva's weakness, feelings of guilt and love for her mother have trapped her in a vicious cycle with no way out. Eva can continue to live her life the way she wants and become a second version of Leslie, or she can decide to throw it all away and step out of her mother's shadow. While Leslie is at the height of her power, with Barbara's trust fund and the relationships she has built, Eva is faced with the decision of whether to expose her mother and destroy all that Leslie has created. Can she overcome her feelings of guilt and dependence on her mother to become an independent person, or will she fall into her mother's trap, becoming the next in a chain of scheming manipulations? In the end, every decision leads to unpredictable results. These conflicts are not just a battle between mother and daughter, but also a battle for freedom and honor. Will Eva be strong enough to escape, or will she be forever trapped in Leslie's web of schemes? And can Ted stop Leslie's harassment without paying a high price? These questions can only be answered when the truth is fully revealed, and only then will everyone involved realize that sometimes betrayal is the final step to freedom. Is Eva strong enough to end the vicious cycle of manipulation, or will she become a second version of her mother? Eva feels a distinct change in the family atmosphere. Everything that had seemed peaceful before now feels like a storm is about to sweep everything away. When she stands in front of the mirror in the morning, looking into her own eyes, she cannot help but wonder what is happening inside. She knows that the secrets her mother has kept hidden for so long have begun to surface. And it becomes even clearer when Eva realizes one thing. Her mother, Leslie, is continuing her plots not only against their family but also against everyone they hold dear. Will Eva really dare to expose her mother when she knows Leslie is manipulating everyone in the Dupree and Richardson families? Leslie, the woman who always seems to maintain a charming and warm exterior, is a master at manipulating other people's emotions and relationships. Every move she made, from dragging Ted into property disputes to creating suspicion between Nicole and Ted, was just a piece of a larger plan that Leslie had carefully orchestrated. Her goal was to create a lasting rift between her loved ones, so that she could finally gain what she had always desired: power and financial control. However, what hurt Eva was not what her mother did to the family, but how she had used her, pushing Eva into the middle of the fights. She was not only used as a tool to make money, but also forced to do things that made her feel a loss of self. Leslie, with her charming appearance and charismatic power, lured Eva into making bad decisions, causing her to gradually lose faith in herself. But when Eva began to see clearly what her mother was up to, she could not help but feel angry and disappointed. She was no longer the innocent child who only knew how to obey her mother. She realized that what her mother did not only affected her family but also her own life. She had been led into sinful actions without realizing it, but now everything had changed. This realization left Eva confused, not knowing whether to expose her mother to her family or continue to keep silent, as part of Leslie's dangerous games. Meanwhile, Leslie did not hide her ambition. She wanted to get what she thought was her right. Her return to a life of borrowing after inheriting Barbara's trust fund was not a coincidence. It was part of her long-term strategy to restore the lavish life she once had. Leslie knew that, despite the large sum of money she had inherited, if she did not maintain her manipulation, she would fall into poverty again. Her extravagant spending, unforeseen loans, and unprofitable projects only deepen her debt. Yet, she continues to exploit others to ensure that she will always have the upper hand. The question is, will Eva have the courage to face her mother, to expose all the conspiracies and manipulations that Leslie has imposed on their family? Can she dare to face the painful truth about the woman who gave birth to her, the woman she once loved and respected? Every decision Eva makes now becomes an internal battle, where loyalty and love for her family clash with her desire for justice and truth. She feels clearly that, no matter what decision she makes, she will never be the same person. But if she decides to expose the truth, will confronting her mother cost her irreparable damage? Leslie is certainly not someone to be defeated easily. She is a master at building networks of power and manipulating those around her. Every move she makes is carefully calculated. Every word she says is part of a grand plan to control the Dupree and Richardson families. Eva knows that fighting her mother is not only a psychological battle, but also a battle with herself. Is she strong enough to break free from her shadow, or will she continue to be drawn into intrigues she cannot control? As secrets are gradually revealed, and the confrontation between mother and daughter becomes inevitable, all will be faced with extremely difficult decisions. Eva will not only have to fight Leslie, but also face herself, with choices she will have to live with for the rest of her life. Eva felt a shiver rise up at the thought of what Leslie was doing. It seemed that every time she stopped to think, her mother's schemes would rise in her mind like waves of destruction that could not be stopped. Eva had sensed for a long time that Leslie was never simply a loving mother like everyone else. She always had hidden agendas, always calculating everything to achieve her goals, even if it meant breaking up her loved ones. Eva could not help but realize that Leslie's every action had a clear goal. And now, not only Ted and Nicole, but Eva herself was also the target of Leslie's terrible plans. She sensed that Leslie was not only plotting to separate Ted and Nicole, but was also planning to destroy her own daughter's reputation. Leslie wanted to control Eva like a pawn in his chess game, using her as a tool to achieve personal benefits. Eva couldn't help but feel a deep fear. Would she become her mother's next victim? Would she be dragged into the vortex of these dark schemes? Or would she be able to stand firm and protect herself? She used to be someone who blindly believed in her mother, always doing what Leslie asked. But now she was no longer an innocent child. Eva had witnessed the plots and sneak attacks her mother had played on everyone, and she realized that she could no longer live in her shadow. The feeling of anger and frustration grew in Eva's heart. She couldn't stand to see what Leslie was doing, but she felt too vague about how to confront her. If she exposed Leslie's schemes, would she be able to defeat her mother? Or would everything only make the situation worse, making her a hated person, caught in a war with no way out? Eva not only has to face the truth about Leslie's plots, but also has to face herself. She has to choose between joining this battle or staying out and hoping that everything will go away on its own. But Eva knows that there is no easy choice. If she chooses to stay out, will Leslie continue to destroy the family without anyone being able to stop her? And if she decides to confront, will she have enough strength to win against a powerful and cunning woman like Leslie? The fear of having her reputation ruined makes Eva even more uneasy. She knows that Leslie not only wants to control the family, but also wants to control her, making Eva a part of his game. If Eva does not act, will she be able to protect herself from her mother's plans? Will the secrets that Leslie knows about her be revealed, causing Eva to lose everything? But there is one thing that Eva cannot deny. Leslie's actions are not just a power struggle. This is a battle of greed and control. Leslie will not stop until everything is in her hands. and this puts Eva under more pressure than ever. She cannot live under her mother's manipulation forever, but if she stands up, she will face a battle not only for loyalty, but also for her own survival in the Dupree family. Will Eva have the courage to stand up to her mother? Can she find a way to free herself from the dirty games Leslie is playing? Every decision Eva makes will not only change her fate, but also affect everyone she loves. Everything pushes her into a dead end where there is only victory or destruction. And now, the biggest question is, what will Eva do when the truth and Leslie's manipulation put her in a position from which there is no escape?